Well, to help us get a better understanding of China's credit system, let's bring in Anthony Gaalaas of AnthonyCreditExpert.com. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So what would you say are the pros and cons of allowing the private sector to participate in personal credit scoring when you already have a central bank that has a system?
Yeah, well, I guess the only good thing about it, maybe some of the pros would be that there'll be more transparency amongst the central bank as well as the private sector. Hopefully this will involve more of the consumers to understand the process that goes through to get their approval or denial. Obviously, the con could be the fact that more information is out there, depending on what information is being fed through the system to develop that score, especially if it comes from a social model as well.
Now, it's interesting because companies around the world are already using big data to learn everything about us and learn about our habits. So do you think a social credit score then could be the natural progression of including it with the financial score?
Well, yes and no, but because again, bad things can happen to good people all the time. So you can have a loss of job, a divorce, maybe a sickness and illness that you're out of work for a few months or so. Obviously, we have to, be careful what we're posting on social media nowadays. But I think that that's not just a fair way to judge somebody on their responsibility to pay something back because they could have a bad credit situation for possibly a short time, possibly a longer time. But that doesn't necessarily judge them or have the right to judge them that they're not worthy of the credit.
Now, as we've seen in other parts of the world, credit rating agencies really do have a lot of weight in how you're able to live your life. But help us understand the business model behind personal credit agencies and how they generate revenue.
Yeah, I like to say that today your credit profile and scores will dictate your financial future. It's just gotten to that point around the world that everything is judged now by our credit score. Anything from getting a job, employment, a promotion possibly, security clearances, auto home loans, even life insurance and auto insurance in different countries are using a scoring model to do that. So again, we just have to be so careful on what information is being pumped into the system that's going to generate those different credit scores for us. So unfortunately, we have to understand the rules of the credit game. It is their game. They make the rules. We have to follow. But I think if there's the proper information that's out there to the consumer, they can win this game.
So then in China, how far will having these new players in the market go to improving not just creditworthiness, but also trustworthiness when it comes to the business environment?
Yeah, obviously with anything, it's going to take some time to develop that and develop that trust. It's going to be a new thing that people haven't been using possibly for years, like they do in other countries. So obviously that the trust is going to have to be built, and we'll just have to see exactly what happens. But I think that over time, if everything is played out correctly, and obviously, again, I really rely on the educational side of things where the consumers and the creditors are playing fair. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way all the time because the creditors don't want the consumer to know too much information because then they can charge a higher percentage rate and obviously be more profitable.
So as we look at some of the experiences and lessons that could be taken from the FICO system and other personal credit scoring methods, what are some of the lessons that China could perhaps learn?
Well, again, we've heard of FICO because it's been around for years, and it's out there in online and offline advertising. There is many different scoring models that are coming up. Even within FICO, they have different scoring models. So again, it also depends on the industry. If the scoring model is going to be developed in such a way as we have done in other places around the world, then the information that's fed in there, again, could depend on what score they're going to receive based on if it's a mortgage loan, an auto loan, again, whether it's an employer checking it, whether it's versus insurance. So there's different factors that are going to come into play, but definitely they need to look at the FICO scoring model, see what's happened, and see what they can do to implement that in China.
So for people who are new to the credit rating industry and how it works, what are your top pieces of advice when it comes to keeping a good credit rating or improving it?
Yeah, well, again, you're going to have to find out the rules of the game. I've always said that if I'm going to show up to play a baseball game with my friends and I show up with a tennis racket, everybody's going to laugh at me and I'm probably not going to win the game. So again, you have to be educated. So again, if it's related to the same sort of the same models that we've been seeing around the world, I think the biggest thing is obviously understanding that you need to pay your bills on time. That's one of the factors. You don't want to be late. You need to use credit. I always explain to people that if you enrolled in a college course, you never showed up for one class, and at the end of the year, you wanted to know what your score was, you wouldn't have a very good score because you didn't show up for class or take a test. So again, you have to play the credit game. You can't say, well, I just want to pay cash for everything. If you're going to develop a score, again, you have to use credit and use it wisely And those are just some of the things you're going to have to do, like paying off the cards on time, using the credit, having it for a number of years, and just being responsible.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights. Anthony Gaalaas there of AnthonyCreditExpert.com.